Teacher Tuesday today is Texas Innovation in Action, introducing the Texas AEL family and civics content standards. Our presenter this morning is going to be Anne-Marie Molinari-Sanders. Again, this is Beth Ponder. I am your host for today's session, and Dr. Deborah Hargrove is our co-host today. So I want to introduce our presenter for today, Anne-Marie Molinari-Sanders on the TCAL team. Anne-Marie is a professional development specialist for Train PD at TCAL. She was the project lead for the Standards 2.0 and Standards 3.0 project, which provided updates to the Texas Adult Education and Literacy content standards. For over 20 years, Ms. Molinari-Sanders has been helping students and instructors within the context of AEL instruction, curriculum development, and professional development training. With over a decade of boots on the ground instruction experience, she was very successful in helping adult learners achieve their GED certificate, high school diploma, and/or enroll in college. Nationally, Anne-Marie serves on the Learning Disabilities Association of America's Adult Topics Committee as an advocate for adults with learning disabilities. She is a certified digital accessibility specialist through the Texas Distance Learning Association. Ms. Molinari-Sanders holds a master's degree in special education with a concentration in increasing academic outcomes for AEL students with learning disabilities. Anne-Marie is a passionate ambassador for persons with disabilities and an advocate for accessibility and inclusion.
Before we get started, I do want to share that this is just a taste of the full Standards 3.0 training. Okay, that's why it's an introduction to the family and the civics content standards. So keep that in mind. Your program PD coordinator can request a full 3.5-hour training through their trained PD specialist, all right? And then there's also a 2-hour standalone family content standards training, and then also a 2-hour civics content standards training. So if you're interested in more of an in-depth look, make sure to reach out to your PD coordinator. And so we have 3 session objectives today. So again, thinking about this as an introduction, what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully understand the anatomy and the structure of the family and the civics content standards. We're not going to go through each sub-area and each sub-area standard by any means, but we're going to understand the anatomy and the structure. Then we're going to recognize the supplemental digital resources available to support the development of the family and the civics content standards. We're going to practice with one of the supplemental digital resources available for standards-based civics instruction. So I'm going to share with you one of the resources. So what we're looking at here is the Texas Adult Education Content Standards version 3, the cover page. So it's called version 3 for a reason, everybody. We have had 3 renditions of the content standards. And so we're on version 3. So we affectionately call this Standards 3.0 because it's version 3. And you may remember that we had our first rendition back around 2016, and we call that the Green Book, right? Those were when the standards were updated. Then we had Standards 2.0, and Standards 2.0 was when we aligned the academic content standards to the knowledge, the skills, and the abilities of the high demand industry sector jobs in Texas, okay? But now we have version 3, and this is when we introduced our new standards, okay? These 2 new standards. There is the Parent Family Content Standard, which is now Content Area 4 in the content standards, okay? And then we also have the Citizen Community Member Content Standards, and that's Content Area 5 in the content standards. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind, and I think is very important, is that your core academic standards for ELA, math, and ESL have not changed. Okay, they have not changed. So English language arts is content area 1, mathematics is content area 2, ESL is content area 3. They have not changed, and they're still aligned to your detailed work activities and your industry sectors. Okay. Now, the parent and the family content standards and the citizen and the community content standards are not aligned to those detailed work activities because these focus more on the roles and the responsibilities when you are a parent and a family member or a citizen and a community member. And they are actually based on the role maps from a project from the National Institute for Literacy. Okay. And so what we did was we took these role maps from this project that occurred in 2000, and TWC had the unbelievable insight to recognize that these would be very good standards. So they were actually role maps, but we turned them into standards for Texas. We took these role maps and we made them into standards. All right. So you can read more about that in the standards book if you're interested in that. What we're going to do is we're actually going to go to the live website here in a minute, but I want to show you something. This is page 2 of the table of contents in the new standards book, version 3. And you will notice that the parent and the family content standards and the citizen and the community member standards are right after ESL. All right, they're right there. Let's go ahead and let's go live to the website. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you where you find the page to download the standards. This is the actual link to where you get to this page. So this is the link, this is the page to the Institute for Instruction. And what you'll notice is that our webmaster has downloaded the full book right here. But then you can also look at each section individually as a hyperlink. How cool is that? So if you are just interested in the ESL standards, you can just download the ESL standards. So you click on that and it's going to bring up a PDF that you can download. All right. So once again, you're going to go, if you're on the home page right here, okay, this is the home page. You're going to go to Institutes and you're going to click on Instruction. And we're going to scroll down and there we are again. All right, so here we have the standards. And again, each section is broken out for you. And I want to call your attention to the history. This is very good to read. I would encourage your instructors to read it. If you're a PD coordinator listening with me today or a supervisor, encourage your teachers to read the introduction and the history. It's very important. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the standards book, the full version. Let's just go ahead and, okay, it opened right up for me. You see what I did? I just clicked on it and it opened right up for me. All right. This is good to open up your table of contents right here. So I can open up my table of contents and then I can just jump to these hyperlinks. All right. Remember I told you that here's ESL and then here's family and civics right underneath. And your introduction and your table of contents and your history. But here's family right here. All right. And so you can just scroll through and look. And then if I want to jump to civics, here's my civics right here. Okay. And that's what we're going to go into in more detail. We're going to now talk about the anatomy and the structure of the parent-family content standards. And again, this is the cover page of the standard. This is a wonderful page, and this is something that will help you get familiar with the standards. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these points because the next slides are going to go over this. But I want to draw your attention to the top of the page, and you're going to see that there is the parent-family content area definition or theme, I like to say. So the family content standards has this overarching definition, and it reads, effective family members contribute to building and maintaining a strong family system that promotes growth and development. And then you move to another area, which shows the broad areas of responsibility or the sub areas. Remember, as I mentioned in the beginning, these standards are based on the Equipped for the Future, the EFF role maps. So they're looking at a basis for responsibility as a parent and a family member. And so you have 3 sub areas. Sub area 1, 2, and 3. Now, under each sub area, you have sub area standards, and they are marked with a capital letter A, B, C, D, and E. And I believe there's no more than 5. So you're going to range from, 3 to 5 sub area standards. The structure is the same as your ELA, your math, and your ESL standards, okay? So when we rewrote this, I made sure that it had the same structure. So you have sub areas and you have sub area standards. Now, what you don't see on this page, and many of you may be wondering, is you don't see the benchmarks that are aligned to each of these sub area standards. So your benchmarks are your performance indicators. Are you meeting this sub area standard? So each one of these letters is going to have benchmarks. We're going to look at one. We're not going to look at all of them. So this is page 116 of the parent-family content standards. And again, you can bring up a digital copy of this and look at this. Now, here's another way of looking at this. This is another visual way of looking at this. We have the organization of the parent-family content standards, and the parent-family content standards is content area 4, remember. Then we have our sub-areas, which are our broad areas of responsibility as a parent and a family member. Then we've got our key activities that we're looking to accomplish in each one of those sub areas or our sub area standards. And then you've got your benchmarks that are nested under your sub area standards. And those are your role indicators or your performance indicators. And I always like to say that your instruction, your objective in your lesson can easily be a benchmark. Your benchmark starts with a verb, and they make great lesson objectives. So keep that in mind when you're building your lessons or working with your teachers.
Before you move on, we do have a question in the chat. Are the parent-family content standards for ESL teachers?
Excellent question. And I would say very much so. I think that there are so many excellent activities that you can do for ESL students around these parent and family content standards. And as we break these down, I think you're going to be able to see what I mean. There's an opportunity for generational interviews, role playing, collage making to show the story of your family. There's also opportunities for them to read to their children. So here again, we have the definition again. of the definition or the theme, right? And it really focuses in on not only contributing, but helping promote the growth and the development. So I think these standards for all of our students, our ABE students, our ASE students, and our ESL students. Let's look at the sub areas. So sub area number 1 is promote family members' growth and development. So family members support the growth and development of all family members, including themselves. So the family member, okay, the single family member. Now, sub area 2 is meet the family needs and responsibilities. So now we're branching out. Family members meet the needs and responsibilities of the family unit. Remember, this is called the parent family content standards. So we're talking about the family unit. And then sub area 3, strengthen the family system. How do we keep a strong sense of family? And this can include intergenerational, right? Growing up as a granddaughter to immigrants to this country, Italians, our family system, it was all about keeping the family together and learning from, my great grandparents and my grandparents. So how do you keep the family system strong? All right, so those are your sub areas. Now, we're only going to look at one sub area, the sub area standards, right? Because for the sake of time, we're going to look at one. So again, these are the key activities. So we have make and pursue plans for self-improvement, guide and mentor other family members, foster informal education of children, support children's formal education, direct and discipline children, however that is defined in your family, right? Or your students' families, I should say. All right, that's open to a lot of interpretation there. So, okay, so those are the sub area standards. And I want to look at one sub area standard under sub area 1, which is guide and mentor other family members. All right, sub area 1, sub area standard B, and then the role indicators and benchmarks. So this is where your lessons could be. Adjust expectations of family members based on age, individual skills, abilities, and interests. Number 2, guide decision making by other family members by fostering critical thinking. These look like potential lessons to me, or at the start of a lesson. Number 3, provide opportunities to expand knowledge and abilities by nurturing a sense of adventure. That sounds awesome. And then we've got 2 more for this sub area standard B. Provide a proper balance of challenge and support to encourage risk-taking. View all members as both teachers and learners, okay? All right, so we're going to move on to the citizen and the community member content standards. We are moving into a deeper idea of what civics is, all right? If you've been around a long time, like I have in adult education, civics, you may think of, learning about the government, the United States government, and understanding, how to vote and the responsibilities, which is definitely part of it. But what's so exciting about this standard is it goes much deeper than that. Again, remember, if you go to the website, you can hyperlink to just this section of the standards. And I also want to note that many of you are very well aware of this probably, is that per TWC, it is now a requirement for Texas AEL programs to integrate civics instruction into ESL classes. All right. So Train PD recognizes the importance of stressing the civic standards during the Standards 3.0 training. There was an AEL letter that addressed this requirement that became a requirement as of July 1. I want to kind of repeat one part of this requirement because I think it's very important, okay? It will enable adults to achieve competency in English language and acquire the basic and more advanced skills needed to function effectively as parents, workers, and citizens in the United States. So this really wraps around to how the family and the civic standards work together. I don't think that a civics lesson and a family content standards lesson has to be mutually exclusive from one another. You can have a lesson that addresses both a family content standard and a civics content standard together. And I'm sure, some of you are already doing that right now. All right. So here we have the same breakdown that you saw before. Our overarching definition is effective citizens and community members take informed action to make positive differences in their lives, communities, and the world. And again, you see the sub areas. Now, civics has 4 sub areas. Family had 3, but civics has 4. And then the sub-area standards, you can see, again, are represented by those capital letters. And then underneath are your benchmarks. The structure, very similar, same thing again. The content area is content area 5. You've got your overarching content area, which is the civics. Then you've got your sub-areas. That we've got 4 sub areas, which are your broad areas of responsibility. Then your key activities are your sub area standards, and then your role indicators and your benchmarks. And I like to tell instructors that your instruction should be happening in here. Your sub area standards and your role indicators and your benchmarks.
Effective citizens and community members take informed action to make a positive difference in their lives, communities, and world.
Thank you so much for helping me. What I was looking at was the words informed action and actually the world. And the reason I say that is that it points to an organized effort to rally for a cause that affects people and brings attention to a problem and the solutions that could benefit other communities nationally and internationally. So we're really taking a broader look at what it means to be a citizen and a community member.
Broad areas of responsibility. Sub-area 1, become and stay informed. Citizens and community members find and use information to identify and solve problems and contribute to the community. Sub-area 2, form and express opinions and ideas. Citizens and community members develop a personal voice and use it individually and as a group.
Thank you so much.
Sub-area 3, work together. Citizens and community members interact with other people to get things done toward a common purpose. Sub-area 4, take action to strengthen communities. Citizens and community members exercise their rights and responsibilities as individuals and as members of groups to improve the world around them.
Thank you. We looked at the sub areas, right? We had 4 sub areas. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at sub area 1 and we're going to look at the sub area standards, just like we did with family, and there's 5 of them.
A, identify, monitor, and anticipate problems, community needs, strength, and resources for yourself and others. B, recognize and understand human, legal, and civic rights and responsibilities for yourself and others. And C, figure out how the system that affects an issue works.
Wonderful. And I love that, think about C, figure out how the system that affects an issue works. So that's really getting into the weeds when we think about our community. So if there's a problem in the community, right? If we're having trouble with, water, if there's some type of contaminated water in a community, how does the system, affect an issue? And then how can a community come together to support each other? Or when there's not a grocery store in an urban area with fresh fruits and vegetables, how does a community come together to combat those zones of limited produce and things like that?
Okay, D, identify how
Oh, you're kind of
to have
cutting.
an impact and recognize that how individuals can make a difference. E, find, interpret, analyze, and use diverse sources of information, including personal experience.
Okay, thank you so much. And we're going to keep going here. And I'm going to go over the benchmarks now. So we're looking at subarea 1 again. And we're looking at subarea standard B, which is recognize and understand human, legal, and civic rights and responsibilities for yourself and others. And under this subarea standard B, the benchmarks are identify instances of injustice and illegality, base decisions on the knowledge of rights and responsibilities, take responsibility for own actions. What we're going to do is we're going to watch a video that's one of these resources, but talk about a microcosm of the civic standards and everything that goes into the civic standards. And this is a video about what's going on in our own Texas backyard. Remember when we discussed the definition and the theme of the civics content area standards? And I asked you to pull out the phrases or the words that stood out in your mind. This video encapsulates all of the ideas about identifying a need in a community, rallying support, and building the esteem and spirit of a neighborhood. Bonton Farms has also served as a catalyst that started a movement that just went beyond the urban farm. So what I want you to do is just sit back and watch this for a minute and think about how you can use this in a lesson.
The farm is a magical place. Food has a way of bringing people together.
It was just about feeding people healthy food, but it grew.
Here in the south side of Dallas, 95% of our families in our community are single-parent households. We suffer from more than twice the rate of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, stroke. About half our men will go to prison before their 25th birthday. The typical approach to solving these issues is to create a program to address a symptom of a problem. What we do that's so radically different is a holistic approach where the solutions are provided in the place that they call home. This little farm in this back end of a forgotten inner city community is playing a role in healing our city. If Bonton works, I think it changes everything. "25% of all Americans are born into a place of poverty every year. And so they're born into a Bonton." Well, when I first moved down, I would always say, if there were something I could do, what would it be? And everybody I met for at least the first 6 months said jobs. We learned along the way that it was more than just about jobs. It was also about fresh food, transportation, and safe, affordable housing, and fair access to credit and education. It was like a house of cards where all these things leaned on one another. People are capable and filled with hope and potential. They just need the opportunities, and those opportunities have to be built in the environment that they come from. We wound up planting a garden with the idea that we would use it to prepare for jobs and also to grow our own food. We couldn't hardly get anything to grow, and when we finally did get something to grow, It was against the city ordinance at the time to have what they classified as a market garden, a garden you sold things from. We've been able to help rewrite the ordinances for Dallas to now allow market gardens. We need a place to sell our food, so we opened a market and cafe. We have a coffee house that'll open next month. We've learned along the way that it's not just about work. We learned how important it is to have transportation to get to work and how important it is to have a place to rest at night when you get home from work. We started buying these defaulted houses, using those as places our interns could stay while they were getting their life on track, and it changed everything.
When you empower somebody and you fix the problem, they can shoot up. They can head for the stars.
And I think how everything has grown here, you'll hear a common thread, is grown through failure. Just about everything we've set out to do hasn't worked, but we didn't quit.
I've started over in life maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 times. I do a little good, you know what I'm saying, get an apartment, you know, get on my feet a little bit. Then I guess I get too relaxed and fall back into my old ways, you know, seeking pleasure and passion in the form of narcotics. I asked for mercy and I prayed for help, and a couple of days later I met Darryl. He said, if you really want some help, Patrick, just meet me at the garden here and I'll see about getting you some help, but you got to prove yourself first. I make it a point to eat. Hey, I want to eat that. The farm gave me a peace of mind. It gave me a purpose and a meaning.
It is an amazing video, and they continue to thrive. Even during COVID, they struggled, but holding strong. Bonton Farms is holding strong. This is a resource on the digital resource list, okay? So I recommend that you share this video with your students and create a lesson around it. And that's what we're going to do right now. And you may be wondering, how do I work with this darn thing? Not everybody is familiar with Padlet. It's one of my favorites. But what you notice here is somewhere on your screen, there should be a circle, a big circle with a plus sign. You're going to click on the plus sign and you're going to write right here, post your answers, right? Post your answers on this Padlet. Okay. And then you're going to hit, and I can't spell Padlet. You're going to click on publish, and you can see that mine came up, and you can move it around. You can drag it all over if you want to, okay? It's a free form Padlet. In Waco, we could use this video as it relates to the Mission Waco Jubilee Market, what it is, how it got started, and how it serves the community. Not exactly a garden, but a food resource where none exists. That's exactly right. That's awesome. Then you could have the students maybe, you know, write a paragraph about it.
I'll go ahead and read a sub area that somebody posted. Sub area 3, strengthen the family system. Family members create and maintain a strong sense of family. Sub area standards D, provide opportunities for each family member to experience success.
We've got Civics sub area 3, work together, show how working together as a group could enhance the lifestyle of individuals. I think this addresses the Civics sub area 4. I agree. Take action to strengthen the community. And I noted here in my notes that it could very well go with sub area 1, 3, or 4 as well. After viewing, the students can break into groups and discuss ways that impacts the community. I think this is a good way to talk about resources at the Texas A&M Extension. Do you see yourself using this Padlet in your own classroom? Do you see yourself doing a similar activity with this? And I wanted to show you too, if you notice, you can create 3 Padlets for free, but I was able to embed the video right here in my Padlet. So what we could do is watch the video right from here.
The farm is a magical place.
So your students could be working right from the Padlet. So I wanted to show you that too. Do you have an understanding for the anatomy and the structure of the family and the civics content standards? Can you recognize the supplemental digital resources available to support the development of the family and the civics based lesson plans.